Welcome to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. I'm Rick Ripma, your hardworking mortgage guy, and we're recording today from the Advisors Mortgage Group studio right here in Carmel, Indiana. And my team and I believe in custom tailored loans, not the one-size-fits-all approach. We believe there is a right mortgage for you, and we are the team to deliver it.
And I'm Ian Arnold, part of Rick's hardworking mortgage team. I've been in the financial industry for 15 years, helping customers rebuild their credit to help them get the best possible interest rate. I have a passion in helping you secure your overall endeavors through real estate and hopefully build generational wealth.
And for the most up-to-date information on the Indy's real estate market or mortgages, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And today we have Jason Pearson with Carpenter Realtors, right?
Yep.
That's what I thought. I better not make that wrong. And we're really excited about this. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You run the Noblesville office for Westfield office for.
Right.
See, I can't get what city anybody's in.
I got my start at the Noblesville.
Oh, okay, and then you moved over and you're
yeah.
running the Westfield office, which I've got to think is the area is booming.
It is.
It's a great place to be.
It's a fantastic community to be involved in, and there is new construction all over Westfield. I think we visit a new construction neighborhood about every week.
Awesome.
And where's your office in Westfield?
So we are on 140 South Cherry Street. We are right behind Field Brewery.
Okay.
Right there on 32.
Oh, no, I got to tell my wife about that one. Oh, no, we've been to Field. I know where that is.
Yeah.
She likes that place.
It's a great space. We're right next door to a great location.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you have someplace to go for lunch.
That's right.
And dinner.
And meetings.
Yeah.
I was about to say that's a new meeting spot.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be a couple cold ones.
It's a really nice. It's all open. It's really a nice facility. But again, thanks so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Before you were into real estate, what did you do? Like, what was your life like? Where'd you grow up?
Well, I'm from Elwood, Indiana, and then I moved to Noblesville right after I graduated from Purdue, where I was a teacher for 22 years. I taught everything from second grade through fifth grade, and I finished my last 9 years. I was a fifth grade teacher for Noble Crossing Elementary in Noblesville, and that was about halfway through my time there. That's when I decided that I wanted to transition into something other than teaching.
And it seems like there are in fact, I've read where the number one career move to real estate is teaching.
I've read that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. My board told us that at our introductory meeting that teachers and nurses are great recruits.
And why do you think that is?
They say that it has a lot to do with one organization, but also there's a lot of one-to-one conversation, one-to-one communication and care that you really put a lot of effort into. I'll say your students or clients, if you will.
Okay. Yeah. Because it makes sense. Mm-hmm. My niece is a real estate agent in North Carolina, and she was a teacher. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, when I taught, hers was one of the easiest transitions to move into. She was surprised at how easy it was,
right? Because
of having all those people that you work with as they're parents of the kids, and they get to know you. And she said it was pretty easy. So how was your transition, and how did you get going in real estate? Because I know it can be really difficult for people.
It was a challenge for me because I wasn't sure what real estate really was. I knew I wanted to transition, and we were actually shopping for a house at that point in time. And I remember talking with our agent, who her kids went through my elementary school, which was why we chose her.
Okay.
And she just stopped and said, "Hey, tell me a little bit about the business." And she was like, "Jason, do you want to become an agent?" And I was like, "No, I'm just talking to you about real estate." She's like, "Oh, no, you'd be a great agent." She said, "With your connections to the school and your involvement in church and you're a hockey coach, you know so many people, you'd be a great agent." And I stopped and I was like, "No, I just was making conversation." And this was in November of 2015. In January, I'd signed up for the class. In April, I had my license. So, and then I didn't know enough about the business itself. So when I started working that summer, I just thought it would be this slow transition. I'd sell a couple of homes, be happy with that, and then stack my retirement up and retire when I hit the rule of 85. And it was a lot harder than I thought it was. I just thought that I know so many people are going to want to work with me, and then I realized that you've got to show competence. It's you've got to work with people that know, like, and trust you. They know you and they like you, but do they trust you to sell their homes? And that was I think the biggest learning curve was how to gain trust when you hadn't had any transactions. And so over the course of the next few years, I figured that out and built my business up and figured out what my exit plan was going to be.
And so how did you figured it out? So how did you transition from that new agent who didn't, it was struggling to a big producer like you are today and a manager of an office?
That's a great question. And when I'd first signed on and started working, a lot of people, and a lot of the books I'd read too, it was establishing that foundation. And one of the things you have to do is you got to make a lot of phone calls, you got to hold open houses, you got to door knock. I didn't have that time as a teacher. And I couldn't just take the day off and go door knock neighborhoods or make 200 phone calls. And so I had to be a little more creative with my time. And my managing broker at the time kept saying, "You have a great sphere. Reach out to those people that know you.
Right.
Just be connected with them." And I kept saying, "I don't want to bother them. I don't want to bother them." And so I went the open house route. And so I started holding 2 to 3 open houses a month. And I'm not a big fan of promoting my face. I like to write stuff down, but I didn't like to take selfies or videos. And so I finally kind of jumped that hurdle and said, okay, take a couple selfies in your open house, make a couple of videos highlighting something in the open house. And the traction that gained, that I would post a video in an open house on Sunday, and then the very next Sunday, I'd have 2 or 3 people come up to me at church and say, "Hey, that house you have for sale, that's a really beautiful patio. Wasn't my house." And so that's where I started realizing the leverage of social media really kind of helped me out. And that was where the more I posted and the more traction I got with my sphere. And so then all of a sudden, 3 years later, I looked at 85% of my business was coming from people that I knew. So then it was, okay, I get it. After 3 years of my managing broker saying, reach out to your sphere, connect with your sphere. She goes, you don't need to door knock. You don't need to, you don't need to make the phone calls. Reach out to those people that know you. And since then, I put a plan together and I've stuck to it for the last 4 years.
And before we get too far, if somebody has any real estate needs, wants to buy, sell, or they're thinking about becoming a real estate agent or looking for a new place to work, how do they get a hold of you?
That's a great question. They can call or text me at 317-289-3986. I'm active on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram is JP Pearson 19. So JPPEARSON 19.
Perfect. And to get a hold of Ian or I, it's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. Now, on what you were talking about, you were the social media, and it's really, that's how you did it. But then you got to your sphere of influence that you didn't want to, that you originally, and you didn't want to talk to them because you didn't want to bother them.
Right.
Right. So once you did start talking to your sphere of influence with your social media, how much of a bother do you think it was for them?
Oh, I was never bothered. And what was one of the things that I started to do too was I would get up early in the morning before school. I would get about 4:30, 4:45, and I would write 2 notes to 2 people in my sphere every day. Most days, 4 or 5 days a week, I'd try that. And then I would get together a market analysis for people that I knew, and I would send one of those out each day. And that was my passive way of putting myself out there to my sphere. Like, if I just write this off and send it out into the universe, it's going to be A-okay. And then I would get a text. I would get a phone call. I would get an email. I get an instant message. It's like, "Hey, got your note. You don't know how much that meant to me." And it was just words of encouragement, or, "Hey, I was just thinking about you." And that then fueled me to go ahead and, how about I text them? Then how about I call them? And no one was ever irritated that I called them. No one was ever irritated that I texted them. And I think it's the lost art of communication, that we don't just reach out and see how people are doing.
Right. I think people want to hear from you.
Right. I do too.
Your sphere wants to hear from you. Not that they don't want you bugging them to list your home every,
Right.
calling them every day or anything like that. But they do want to hear from you. Because your sphere of influence cares about you. So
Right.
it's really important that you do that. And I ask that question because I want people to understand, especially newer agents or newer salespeople, that you're not a bother.
You're not, and it's interesting because that phone feels so heavy that you feel like it's like, I got to make my phone calls. No, it's not it's not that you have to make your phone calls. It's that you get the opportunity to communicate and check in with people.
Yes.
And sometimes it's really interesting that I put somebody down. I need to touch base with them, and I kind of hesitate for a day. I hesitate for 2 days, and then I reach out to them. And it's the most well-timed phone call or the most well-timed text because it's just, I feel like the people, we need to be in communication with them.
Yes.
They want to share.
I think one other thing that you touched on, but you didn't really touch on, is you were a teacher for 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, especially your everybody around you knew you as a teacher. They didn't
Right.
know you as a real estate agent.
Right.
So you making that subtle phone call, even if it's not about, hey, I'm just checking to see how you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to sell them or anything, but you're just checking in. And most times what will happen is somebody like, oh yeah, you're in real estate. How's the housing market? And you don't have to really sell yourself. You just give them a little information. Hey, I'll talk to you in about a couple weeks. That quick, easy. It just keeps you in front of people without pushing yourself.
Right. And I think that's the key thing is how do you make yourself top of mind this is where I sit. How do I keep myself front of mind without being the commercial where I've got a jingle that every time they see me, they see, they know that's my pitch. How do you stay relevant with being natural and just being yourself?
Yeah, and it is important that they remember what you do. I think that
Mm-hmm.
you and I talk about that quite a bit. Is that they can't know you as a teacher because then they won't refer you, right? Because they don't think it's not that they wouldn't refer you. They just, when somebody says, "Hey, listen, I need a real estate agent," they don't think of the teacher as the real estate agent. They got to think of the real estate agent. So that's really important, it seems to me. And it seems like the fact that you have all those years of experience as a teacher is not only extremely well. Actually, why is that so valuable, or how do you use that and have that be of great value to your clients?
So I got into real estate because I wanted to make money. It seemed like I did the math that I could make more money selling a few homes than I could working at Home Depot or driving to Zamboni at the ice rink. And that was my initial, it was an end goal 15 years down the road. And then after I'd sold, well, and because of HGTV, you think that everything's glamorous. You're helping people buy their dream home, or they're buying, their first home. And it took me 3 transactions where I realized that I'm helping someone who had just lost their husband and they have to downsize because they can't afford the home they live in. I'm helping someone through a divorce situation that all of a sudden it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes it's painful. And that's when I transitioned that real estate is more about social work and connections than it is sales. It's not a sales job. I am a therapist. I'm a social worker. And I think that's where the teaching aspect comes in, where you have to know how to communicate to 25, 30 different kids and their parents all the time. And you can't say the same thing to everybody. And so you have to be aware of where they are, what's their, is it that real estate is exciting and emotional. They're looking forward to buying this home. They could be, but the stress of going through an inspection and an appraisal and then lining up movers there's a lot going on. And even though they're excited, in that 30 days is a lot of stress. And so I'm there to be the calm in the storm.
Yes.
To be the educator, to be the comforter, to talk them off the ledge, that everything is going to be okay, or figure out what else we need to do.
What is the best way to get a hold of you if somebody has any real estate needs?
Sure. My phone number is 317-289-3986. I'm also very active on Facebook and Instagram at JP Pearson 19, JPPEARSON 19.
19. And that's on the social media sites?
Yeah, Instagram. I'm not so active on Twitter. I've got an account, but it's just there so I can get the free signups.
Yeah.
Do you do all your dances on TikTok too?
I watch the dances on TikTok.
He films them.
Yeah.
I'm the same
Yeah.
way. I wouldn't
No.
do them, but I'd film them. And to get a hold of Ian or I, it's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And thanks for listening to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. The gurus we interview share valuable insights. They reveal their strengths, personalities, and how they'll work for you. While we hardworking mortgage guys secure your best mortgage, real estate gurus work hard too. They avoid problems the amateurs don't see. They listen, and they find unrealized opportunities. If you're buying or selling a home, a real estate guru is a valuable asset. If you're even thinking of buying or selling a home, keep listening and definitely call one of Indy's real estate gurus.
All right, Jason. So we're going to take a side step from the real estate.
Excellent.
So let's say I had to take your phone away for 24 hours. You cannot touch it, cannot work. So once you get up from the fetal position crying, what will we find you out there doing for fun?
Oh, well, I do several things. I'm a pretty big vinyl collector, and I've got several friends that we get together. In fact, tonight is what we call Thirsty Third Thursday, where we get together, we spin a few albums and talk music, talk life. I also am involved in a hockey league. I've got 2 leagues I play in. So I play just around the corner here at the Carmel Ice Stadium.
Wow.
Play twice a week there, and I've got a really great group of friends and family, and we stay pretty active in a lot of ways. We're in the middle of our spring house concert series. A friend of mine, Kim Bupp, and we put together the Front Porch Music Festival in downtown Noblesville. So we're at our third little shameless plug, August 26th from 2 to 6:30. We shut down Logan Street in Noblesville. We'll have 18 bands on 12 different porches. And so it's what I do for fun is I do like to shut the phone off and lots of music, whether it's on my turntable or watching it on front porches, and then, getting out to the ice rink as much as possible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the guys you play hockey against, any one of them check you again on the board and then go, hey, thanks for the great deal on my house.
So that's really funny. I've got an advertising. This took a big leap of faith for me to advertise at the rink, on the rink that I skate in. And I'm not a great hockey player, but my tagline is below average hockey player, above average realtor. And about 2 weeks into it, I had a moment of greatness, and this guy skates away from me, and he said, "Below average, my ass." Sorry, but that was so no, they don't, but they do like to chirp me from time to time if I actually do something worth noting. But it's a great community to be connected with.
That's a fantastic thing, having that. You have to have this sphere of influence we talked
Right.
about. And those are great people. I want to know more about this music festival. So is it at houses, and they're on the people's porches?
Right. So my wife and I got out of town for our anniversary one weekend, and we ran down to Evansville for no reason at all. Stumbled across this event that a local church puts on, and on the way home, I told my wife, I said, we have to take this to Noblesville, and and through long story short, we decided we got it off the ground. We collaborated with the community or with the city. And we worked really hard getting sponsorship and food vendors from our local food vendors and the local merchants. And we shut down, I'm not sure how familiar with Noblesville, but we shut down 10th Street, which is right next to the square.
Right.
And we shut down 4 blocks on the brick-lined Logan Street. And then we've had to get permission from the street to shut it down. So all the residents are on board with this. And then some of them willingly put their porches up, and then we got local musicians from Central Indiana, and they played 2 sets, 2 45-minute sets. We have like 6 time slots. So it's so you show up at 2:00, you watch a band on 3 different porches, And then the next 45 minutes, there's 3 more porches that have music, and then the third time slot, and then it starts all over for a second round.
Sounds awesome.
It is. First year, we had about 700 people show up, and we planned it in 6 weeks. So we were just tickled that happened. Last year, we had almost 4,000 people.
Wow.
We conservatively estimated we had 4,000 people there.
And how many are you expecting this year?
We would love to double that this year. We're hoping that we can get 7,000 to 8,000 this year, because there's room to grow.
Right.
But we also know that there's a cap that we like the intimacy of 4.5 blocks, and we don't want to make this bigger. We just want to fine tune it, make it better. That we know that there is a limit to how many people we can have, and we're okay with that.
Yeah, those type of things though are so awesome to go to. And is there a certain type of musician that you?
So that's the fun part. The first year we got whoever we could just like. I'm just calling, hey, who do you know? And now this year I'm actually having to turn people away.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of the things that we're really wanting to do is find some diversity in music. So we've got we've got a young bluegrass family. So it's a dad playing the bass, and he's got his 4 or 5 children that are
that's
playing all the other
Yeah.
instruments. We've got a soul band. We've got an Americana band. We've got a rock band. We've got some singer-songwriters. People, we've got a New Orleans jazz brass band. We've got all sorts of, we're trying to mix it up. We've even got a 1970s era Ghana pop band.
Wow.
So we're trying to have exposure to a variety of music, but also have music that people are comfortable with as well.
And when is this?
August 26th
Okay.
from 2 to 6:30 p.m.
Now, Ian and we can't sing or play music.
All you have to do is show up.
Okay.
And food?
Food. So we'll have, currently we have 2 local vendors. We've got Debbie's Daughters and 9th Street Bistro, and then Primeval Brewery will be there. We're working with getting our third food vendor. It's a free event. That was the big thing, that we get all of our sponsors to help pay the musicians, because it's, one, we want to make sure we take care of our musicians, but 2, we want to have this be vendor free outside of the food. We don't want anybody selling their wares. We just want you to come and walk freely through the street and enjoy the music and enjoy the community.
And how do people find out more about this event?
Oh, well, we have social media, Noblesville Front Porch Music Fest, and we have a website, noblesvillefrontporchmusicfest.com. And those are the 2.
Okay.
And if I've goofed the website up, because I think we tried to shorten it. It used to be really long, that if you just type that in, it's going to be your first hit.
Okay.
They also hear about it on Indy's Real Estate Gurus.
That's exactly right.
Well, yes, but I'm just trying to find out so that, I think I would think a lot of people that would be, I don't know about everybody else, but we are always looking for things to go do. And that is like an awesome thing to go do.
It is something that I'm very, you ask what I do with my phone is often. I'm very, very passionate about being connected in the community, and just getting out and walking to downtown. We live just blocks from downtown Noblesville. I live downtown Noblesville, and it is a great thing to just, in a community of 60,000 people, to go into a restaurant, to go into a store, and to see people that it feels like small town America. It doesn't feel like a suburban area at all. And that's why I think that this event, it kind of encapsulates that idea.
Yeah, that's just an awesome thing that you did. That's phenomenal.
Well, thanks.
What he didn't tell you, though, is those houses all have a for sale sign with Jason.
Someday.
Well, that would be a good time to market it.
Yeah,
wouldn't it, right?
yeah,
All those
it would
people
be.
there.
It would be.
Now, does your house, does it have a porch, and do you have musicians on it?
I do not have a porch. We have a front step, and we did, since I'm a block south of Logan Street, and I'm down. And in fact, that's what a few of the residents were like. Well, why Logan Street? Why not Connor? Well, Connor's a highway for one, but 2, Logan Street's just a beautiful. I mean, it's the brick street. Now, I did have a concert in my front yard last Friday night. We did this home series, and we had 2 rock bands in our front yard.
Oh, wow.
We had about 80 people show up,
Awesome.
and so it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have friends that they across the street, the guy is a musician, and he'll have his guys over and they'll play. It's just fun to go to and sit out and listen, and everybody has a good time.
It's a lot of fun.
So let's get back to real estate.
If you insist.
Yeah.
So here, I got a good one. So we talked a little before that you've only been with Carpenter. So let me ask this question. What made you choose Carpenter, and what makes you stay there? Because you've been there for quite a while now.
Well, I talked to the education director and the manager of the Noblesville office, and I kind of had a connection with the manager. Her kids went through my elementary school. I didn't have them in class, but I knew the family, and so we met a couple of times, and we talked. I think both times were minimum of 2-hour meetings, and we talked a little bit about real estate, but it was more about the culture and what she talked about. It fit exactly who I was. And what has kept me there is that same feeling throughout that I know that there are teams throughout the industry. And I feel like if I ever have a concern or a struggle or a need, there are countless agents across central Indiana that I can reach out to. And when I had someone ask about agricultural land, I reached out and I was like, well, who sells ag land? I got that phone number, and now I got a great deal of support, and I know that I don't ever have to struggle to find somebody, and people are willing to step up and help. So I feel like I'm not on a team, but I am connected to a team, and in the sense of we've got each other's backs, and so that's probably what has been, I think, from top to bottom, and being a part of the management team has only strengthened that I from what I see at our monthly meetings and when we get together as a region. I really like the community that we have.
I just think, which we've talked about, I just think it really matters. The culture is, when I was younger, I wouldn't have thought that so much, but when I look back at my career, every time I leave somewhere, it was always because I picked somewhere that had a bad culture. Some places I didn't stay very long at all because you realize very quickly the culture is not right. And it doesn't matter how much the pay is better, if it's higher than others. For at least for me, I think culture is extremely important. I also think that support, the mentorship matters tremendously. And you have, not only, I'm sure you mentor people, and it sounds like when you need it, you have mentors that can, you don't know farmland. You got mentors who can teach you farmland, right? So how important is that when somebody is looking to have those strong mentors there to help?
I think it's one of the most important things that you need is someone that can guide you through this process, because I think what everybody in real estate knows is when you got into real estate, it was nothing at all what it really was. You get into it thinking it's one thing, and it is completely different. And that's okay. It's a great job. I mean, we talk about when we try and get agents to work with us, it's a dream job, but I always joke around, I said, it's a nightmare. But every job has its positives and negatives. Everybody, you got to choose your hard. And I think that the hard in real estate is really manageable because the sky's the limit with what you can do. And without that mentorship, you don't necessarily understand what all you can really do. I mean, this isn't a job, it's a career. And one of the things that I try to really work with my new agents is that, yes, you want to get paid, but more importantly, you want to build the foundation for a solid career where you can go anywhere you want to go with it.
And if somebody would like to get a hold of you for real estate, maybe they want to become a real estate agent, or they're looking for a new team, or maybe they want to know more about the music festival.
Right.
How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
So you can call me, 317-289-3986. You can reach out to me via Facebook or Instagram at jppearson19, JPPEARSON19. And
to get a hold of Ian or I, it's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And I got to tell you, you're so interesting that I actually I missed my best question that I like the very best. So I'm going to ask that now. Is that all right?
What about the question of the week?
How
about this? After the question of the week, we'll find out What is his superpower?
What? That's my question.
I didn't ask it.
You
I just made a
ruined it.
statement.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. The question of the week is sponsored. Hey, Rick and I, the hardworking mortgage guys, where we believe in helping you and supporting your realtor by sending constant updates. Nobody likes to live in a black hole, so we do not allow it here. If you like the black hole, we are not the company for you. All right. So before we get into Rick's favorite question, what was your first car?
Oh, my first car. This is a tricky answer. My first car was a 1980 Tornado, but the day I got my license, it wouldn't start, and my mom had a 1980 Camaro that she did not take very good care of, and so I was a little embarrassed of this Camaro, even though it was
A Camaro.
a Camaro. So the day that I got my license and it wouldn't start, I was like, "Hey, Mom, can I borrow the Camaro?" And she's like, "Oh, that's fine." And so I took it immediately to the car wash. I cleaned it up. I did all the detail work to it. And the Tornado just needed a new battery. But she ended up driving that, and the Camaro was mine. We swapped cars on the day I got my license.
Terrible for
Oh,
you.
it was a bad deal. So I had that for mostly through high school.
But I think both those cars are good cars.
I thought the Tornado was pretty cool. It had a sunroof and an 8-track player. And none of my
8-track.
yeah, had to go deep for those.
Yeah. You were a music guy from the start.
I have been, yes.
Yeah.
But you don't collect 8-tracks, only vinyl?
Just vinyl.
Just
yeah. It's for me, it's the most fun. It's tangible. And plus 8-tracks, not to get too nerdy, they didn't age well. Tape's stretched and the heat and everything. But vinyl is there's just something that's just something pure about the sound.
I heard the sound as much. I can't hear it because I don't have that good of an ear, but I hear that the sound is much better on vinyl.
It's great. I really do. And plus, sometimes the cracks and the pops, it's nostalgic. It takes us back to, as silly as it is, simpler times.
Yeah.
I mean, you put an album on, you're committed to sitting and listening to music.
Yeah.
You're not just, it's not background noise. You're there for a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have my old record player.
Nice.
And my whole everything. So I still have all that. I still like it.
Excellent. That's I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. But I have no musical talent. But I'm going to get on to what is your superpower or superpowers?
It depends on who you ask. I'm sure my wife would have a different answer for this.
Yeah. We should have her on.
Yeah. I may not like the answer. I think that my superpower is, I think that I'm consistent, and I think I am that calm in the storm that I try not to. Behind the scene, I feel like the best analogy is I'm that duck on water where I'm pretty steady, but underneath I'm paddling like crazy. And I think that I try to not operate with my hair on fire because I know that no one really benefits in the transaction when that's happening. So I try to just if I know it's going to be a tough phone call, or if I know it's stressful, work that through first and then make the phone call. Make sure that and if I know the difference between when a phone call needs to be made and versus a text or an email, and I think that or driving to the person's house and having that conversation face to face. So I think that consistent and steady would be. It's not glamorous, but I think that's what I bring to the table.
And how do you know? You bet it should be in person or on the phone rather than a text or an email.
I think the implication of the answers that you're going to receive. If you know that it is a heavy inspection, that the buyer has asked for some pretty hefty things, I think that you probably need to drive to their house. You don't want to just drop that and have them open up an email. I think that sometimes it's how do you want news delivered to you? If you were on the other side, how would you want that news delivered to you? And that's usually where I base a lot of those decisions.
I do it, but I agree 100%. I do it by, if I really don't want to do it that way, then that's probably the way I should be doing it.
That's exactly right. If your stomach rolls a little bit, that means grab the keys and get in the car. Yeah.
We don't normally meet with people, so ours it's over the phone, and it's like,
right.
If you look at it and go, man, I'd really like to do this in an email, it's a phone call.
Right.
If it's I can do this phone call, then you can probably do it in an email too. But I always err on, which I'm guessing you do by what you've said, I would err on going to the house for or doing a call over everything else, because then I can't be wrong.
Right.
Right.
And I think it was funny that a buyer just sent me a text yesterday, and I always love it at closing when the same conversation happens. I had a buyer lean in and say, who am I going to text every day now? And I was like, you can still text me.
Yeah.
And the buyer was like, well, now that we're through the inspection and the appraisal, we haven't talked in a few days. What do we do now? I was like, well, we can still talk. It's okay.
It's kind of weird though.
It is.
You spend so much time with somebody over this period of time, and then you don't talk to them again forever.
Right. And
very little.
That's the importance of the follow-up, is staying connected with them, having client events. That's why, I mean, the Front Porch Music Festival started because I just felt it needed to be in our community. But, and I'd be lying if I didn't say, the ulterior motive is I get to invite everybody I know to this event.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like the mayor of Munchkinland. I'm walking around, I see everybody that I know, and it's, for me, it fills me, but it's also all those touches. And be able to try and do smaller things like that throughout the year. It's important so you don't lose that connection at the closing table.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a difference.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, and like we mentioned earlier, is you're doing something, but you're not selling yourself, but you're still putting your name out there. And that's huge. And
that's, I think, the biggest thing to try and teach younger agents is how do you have these events, if you will, when you have little to no money coming in. And I think that's why the experienced agents that have an event like the Front Porch Music Festival, or if your community has an Easter egg hunt, how can you attach yourself to it with little to no financial input? So that way you can still have client events at some capacity, but not have to worry about, the big financial input on it as well.
All right. So Rick asked his favorite question. I'm going to ask mine. What do you think your most memorable deal is?
Oh, my first one. It was with a teacher friend of mine, and she had put me to task to find land for her to build their dream house on. And it was one of the first real estate social media posts that I'd ever made. We were doing, we would do, I think it was once a month, we would do home tours of active listings, because back in that day in 2016, homes weren't selling in 2 days or 3 days. They were sitting for a few weeks. And so we would schedule a few houses to tour, and I took a picture of it and I put it up on social media, and it was fall break. And she sent me a text and said, hey, what size is that backyard? And I was like, you wouldn't want it. It's in Carmel. You're looking, and you want to build in Noblesville. And she's like, well, that's that. She's like, I really like that kitchen. And I was like, and I never thought about asking this on the front end, because I was just looking for land. I said, well, what kind of house do you want to build? What are you looking for to build in this house? And so she gives me this detailed bullet point list. So I just plugged it into the search, and a house, nothing was in there. And so I thought I'd check again right before I went to bed. And this house had just gone on the market. And so I sent it to her. And the next morning she said, hey, we're in Florida on vacation. This was a Wednesday morning. And she said, can you go show us this house? Absolutely. So I go and I take some pictures, email them to her. And then I did a video, because we weren't really FaceTiming at that point in time. Yep. So then I email her the videos, and she's like, I want to put an offer on that house. So my first house was an almost $600,000 house where the buyer had not even been in it.
Wow.
And so that was also a big learning point for me, where I leaned over to an experienced agent in our office at the end of the workday, and I was like, hey, here's my situation. I'm writing an offer for a buyer that's never been in the house. How do I write this offer? And so over the next 3 hours, she sat with me and wrote this offer, and we ended up getting it. And I learned, I mean, it was just kind of a fun process that they're still not, that literally she tells me every time, she's like, this is our dream house. We found our last home. And so that always sticks with me, that the first person to take a chance on me was in Florida on vacation. And that was a big deal.
That's huge. It's amazing too, that you were able to do that. And then somebody would sit with you. This is the value of a team, having a mentor. Somebody would sit with you for 3 hours and help you go through all that and get it correct.
Well, and the thing about that too, that was a big learning experience for me, was I got my license in April, and then I didn't really start working until June when summer started. And I sat in that office for 2 months during the summer, and I was doing work, but I didn't really know what I was working on. And I've got all these agents around me that are just buzzing, and they're doing transactions, and they're doing all these holding open houses. And I'm just sitting there like, why is this so hard? And it was between her and another situation where I asked. And once I asked for help came out of the woodwork. And I think that part of that is that so many agents come and go that a lot of the experienced agents aren't going to necessarily go overboard until they realize that you are invested in it as well.
Yes.
And I think that was a huge thing for me that I try and share, that if you've got questions, ask them. Don't wait for people to come to you. Take the initiative.
Yes.
And once I did, that was a complete game changer for me.
Yeah. I used to have a fairly large team. I was at a bank and had a fairly large team, and the people who wouldn't make it were always the people who didn't ever ask for any help, right? And when they left, they'd say, "Well, you never came and asked me."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we told you up front, it's your responsibility. If you need help, you need to ask. Everybody here will help, but you got to ask. And it's amazing how many people just won't ask.
Right.
It's not that hard, and everybody actually likes to help you out, but you have to show you want the help, and you're going to listen.
There was a great book. It's the 6 Types of Working Geniuses by Pat Lencioni. And that was a big game changer for me in thinking about, I have to understand what people's gifts are, what their working geniuses are, and what their frustrations are. And so how do I best support you? Because we're all not motivated the same way.
Right.
And so I kind of need to tap into your motivations. And so maybe you might not be able to ask for help. So I got to figure out, how can I bring that around to where I can at least get you to communicate with me with what help you do need.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
But with real estate and being a real estate agent, there's so many misconceptions out there, and you've been in the business, plus you're managed. So I thought maybe you'd be a perfect person to ask. What are those misconceptions that people have of what it is, what a real estate agent is and does?
I was in a donut shop yesterday morning, and I heard 2 people bad-mouthing real estate agents about how we just take money, and it's all about the commission. And I think that the misconception is that we drive nice cars, we wear nice watches, and I think that is the minority. I think there are a lot of agents that they don't understand what the daily work looks like. What is I call it the invisible work. I get to the office and I work for 2.5 hours, not on transactions, trying to make connections, looking at the numbers and researching the market. And I don't think people realize what all we do to know what we know. And that, I think it's not glamorous. It's boring. And I think that's where I think it's tough to communicate that to when I'm talking with new agents or a recruit that wants to get into the business, is they just see what's on TV or when they've bought or sold a home. They don't know what is your 9 to 5 look like.
Right. There's a lot of work.
It is.
It's work.
Yeah.
And I think that's what those guys those 2 people that were talking didn't realize is how much effort goes into it and how much your expertise and knowledge matters on how much they end up netting on their house.
Right. It is. And I was listening to this a few years ago, and one of our experienced managers was talking about how to price a home or how they were training agents to price homes. And she was just throwing these ideas out there, and she kept talking about hot sheets. I just look at the hot sheets. I study them 3-4 times a day. What is she doing? Because I see the button hot sheets, and I click it and I look at it. I'm like, what is she doing with this? And so finally I was like, okay, you got to tell me, what do you do? And so then she told me what she does. And then I start, okay, it was a muscle, right? I had to flex that muscle a little bit. And so now I've taken that and expanded into more data analysis for myself. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a lot that I don't know. And I think that's the whole going back and asking questions, and then just to keep trying. So that way, when I sit down at a listing appointment, not only can I comp your home based on the neighbors and the comps in the area, but I can also speak to you about the market, and I can speak to you with, homes lately have been selling below list, and I can tell you exactly how many over the last week or two, or how many have sold above list. And so it's learning all those little tricks that they don't teach you in the class, and you've got to figure some of these things out by listening to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that most people also, I mean, you see the TV, like we mentioned. Oh, you show 3 houses and they buy one. All right, let's be honest. It's not like that. Not only, especially if you're a new agent, I mean, you don't realize you're working most nights. You're working weekends. Even you said you were doing showings 3 out of the 4 weekends out of a month. I mean, so if you have a young family or something like that, you're taking so much time. Your time is not like a normal workday, 9 to 5. So I think there's a lot to it. And one thing that you said that you look at a sales contract, we get them all the time, Rick and I, with where we are. But when you go through it, you don't realize, again, you said it took you 3 hours to go through it. And yeah, there was probably some explaining done through that, but 3 hours.
Right.
So there is more to it than what the average person knows.
Right. And and then navigating that too. And then when you send a purchase agreement, if you're going to do the e-signatures and you send that, you're trusting that person on the other end, this is where we go back to the importance of the face-to-face, you're trusting that they're going to read that contract. And all they're doing is clicking to get to the signature so you can forward it on. And then if you get into a mess later, you say, well, you signed right there that's stating that. And so that's the importance of making sure that you know that they know what they're signing before they sign it.
Yeah, that's a disaster if the buyer or seller doesn't know what they're signing.
Right.
They have to know what they're signing.
Exactly. And that was probably the most terrifying thing for the first handful of transactions was I didn't know the contract well enough.
Right.
And I think that's where taking the time to, that was the downfall of being a teacher and a real estate agent, is I wasn't able to capitalize on a lot of the stuff that was happening in the office.
Yeah.
And so that was why it was important for me on my breaks, fall break, spring break, summer break. I was always in the office so I could try and gather as much information as I could.
You got to be around.
You do.
Listen.
You do.
Yeah. I think the other thing that you talked about is that you picked up from the other agent these hot sheets. And I think especially it's really for anybody, but new agents when they're just getting in, one of the ways they can overcome being new is learn everything they possibly can as quickly as possible, because not that you brag about it when you're talking to somebody, but having that knowledge to sit down and tell somebody at a listing appointment, well, here's what's happening in your market right now. Even if you're new, that shows you have knowledge. And that's really what you have to get over, right? Is this person doesn't know what they're doing because they're brand new.
Well, and that's one of the things that we've been working on is how do you work on your market intelligence? One way is to be in open houses and to research the market for that open house, and so that way you're actively in front of people that are active buyers. But then I use the example every time I'm in a group, someone's going to ask me, how's the market? And by studying those numbers, if you haven't had a transaction in 6 months, if you study those numbers, you can answer the question.
Right.
And so not that you can run with it, but you can at least pick a number, pick a data point to talk about, and then let that evolve. And I think that is where you gain your competency while you're trying to get those first few transactions.
Yeah, and they have to have confidence in you, and I think that's one of the biggest things. So many people don't do anything. I think that's one of the problems in the misconceptions. I think you've talked about it, is that people come into the business thinking that it's fairly easy and that the business just comes to you. And that's not how it is. You got to work and you got to go find the business.
I mean, I had over 900 emails. I had over 900 contacts, and it's like, oh, this is going to be easy. And it was the opposite of easy.
Yeah, it's not easy.
All right. So with that, if somebody's wanting to work with you and either to buy, sell a home, or even just talk about what their options are and get some information from an expert like you, How would they get a hold of you?
Well, they can get a hold of me through my phone number, call, text, 317-289-3986. You can reach out to me via Facebook, or I am on Instagram as well at JP Pearson 19, JPPEARSON 19.
And to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And follow us for more Indy's Real Estate Gurus.
Jason, we'd like to thank you for your time. The information you gave us was brilliant.
No.
So I fully enjoyed it. I don't know if Rick did. He was snoring a couple times, but
I am tired.
but
it was interesting. I think it was phenomenal.
All right. And reminder, if you know any friends, family, or coworkers looking to buy, sell, refinance, contact Rick or I. We'll be more than happy to help you.
Branch NMLS number 33041. Rick Ripma's NMLS number 664589. Ian Arnold's NMLS number is 1995469. Equal housing opportunity. Some restrictions apply.